أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum and welcome to Perspective. My name is Faizel Patel. On tonight's show, we look at the South African elections, the abduction of Nigerian schoolgirls, and we also look at some tech news. Remember, you can interact with me via email on at Faizel at itvnetworks.tv or Twitter on at Faizel143, alternatively on facebook.com/Faizel Patel. South Africa's fifth democratic elections is done and dusted. The Electoral Commission of South Africa's chairwoman, Panzi Tlakula, announced the final results of the national and provincial elections on Saturday evening, and no doubt that you have seen that as well. Now, the three top scorers are the ANC with 62.15% of the vote, the DA with 22.23%, and the EFF, or Economic Freedom Fighters, with 6.35%. Now, in the next three spots are the IFP, the NFP, which is a breakaway from the IFP, and then we also have the United Democratic Movement. Now, President Jacob Zuma said in reaction the ANC will lead the country into a prosperous future as envisaged in the Freedom Charter. He added that the party would continue to deliver and said the party was humbled by the support shown by South Africans. The National Development Plan, or NDP, will take the center stage when President Jacob Zuma begins his second term as head of the state later this month. Now, after securing a 62.15% victory in the elections, the ANC will focus on closing the loopholes in delivery issues that might be exploited by the Economic Freedom Fighters and the soon-to-be-formed Socialist Party that is being championed by the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa. Now, this service delivery that we're talking about is the service delivery protests in Bekkersdal, in Motlutlung, and in Guguletu, and many other areas as well. Now, there will be no major changes to government structures because, why? The ANC feels it cannot afford any more experimentation and that ministers should just move on to implementing the policies. Now, some of the changes that President Jacob Zuma could include is the merging of the land and agriculture departments, starting a government department for small businesses, starting a health council to tackle lifestyle diseases, merging sports and recreation with arts and culture, and also merging the Department of Women, Children and People with Disabilities with that of Social Development. So that's the victory of the ANC. We've seen the DA become the official opposition party in many other provinces besides in Gauteng. We've also seen it in the Eastern Cape and Northern Cape as well. And we will see going forward how President Jacob Zuma intends to rule for the next 5 years. And let's see what developments and what improvements there are for the next 5 years. Now, staying with the elections, at least 11 million people voted for the ANC during the 2014 general elections. Now, much of the electioneering before the election consisted of promises of a better life, work opportunities, eradicating poverty, and many other promises that was mandated or in the manifesto. Now, politics were part and parcel of South African lives over the past couple of months. I know we did a lot of preparation here at ITV. A lot of people were inundated with just politics all the time because of the lead up to the general elections. Political parties were campaigning, there was politicking, they went to various areas across South Africa. The question I'm asking tonight is, were the elections done and dusted? I want to know, did you vote? Have you voted? If you did vote, What would you like to see achieved over the next 5 years by the ANC that won the election, or from any political party that has maybe dominated or won a particular ward? Let's take the Western Cape. In Lenasia, the DA won the Lenasia area. What would you like to see done? You can tweet me or you can drop me a mail on my email address, on my Twitter handle as well. Now, we spoke about the Sidikwe Vukani, vote no. Now, this is where my question comes in. Did you vote? The Sidikwe Vukani Vote No campaign realized its goal of preventing the ANC from getting a 66% majority. One of the campaign's leaders, Louise Colvin, said not only has this been achieved, but the ruling party was not even able to garner as many votes as it did in 2009. Now, the ruling party shed 213,827 votes and slid into 62.15% of the counted vote. Former Intelligence Minister Ronnie Kestrels and former Deputy Health Minister Nosizwe Madlala Rutledge launched the campaign in April. Remember, we spoke about that. They first wanted you to spoil your ballot, and then they said vote for a smaller party. Now, they called on South Africans to either vote, like I said, for a minority party or spoil their ballots. Now, according to the IEC, there were 251,960 spoiled ballots. That's according to the IEC. Colvin said this many votes would have secured between 5 and 6 seats in Parliament, placing it in 6th position. While the campaign did not claim to have single-handedly caused the decline in the ANC support, it said it did help add fuel to the fire. Now, another story that's been making headlines from Saturday, even from Friday onwards, and has been covered by mainstream media is the DA's Lindiwe Mazibuko. That's on everybody's lips at the moment. Lindiwe Mazibuko has quit his job as the DA's parliamentary leader. Mazibuko, who became parliamentary leader 3 years ago, made the stunning announcement to the Sunny Times before she had informed party leader Helen Zille. Now, she was due to break the news of a decision to leave to study at the Harvard University in the US to Zille on Saturday evening. Now, what she's going to be studying is, there are reports that she wants to complete her MBA degree at this prestigious university in the United States. Now, Mazibuko's move comes after a public falling out with Zille in November last year over the DA Parliamentary Caucus handling of the employment equity legislation. However, Helen Zille has denied this, categorically denied this, saying that they used to have many debates, but it has nothing to do with the debate that Lindiwe Mazibuko actually left. Now, the disagreement led speculation in the party that Mazibuko would be challenged by Zille's new favorite. And who's that favorite at the moment? The DA spokesperson, Mmusi Maimane, when fresh elections were held for the position of parliamentary leader soon. But Mazibuko insisted her decision had nothing to do with the difference with Zille. And like Zille also said, it had nothing to do with the debates that normally used to have. Now, earlier this year, Mazibuko described the relationship to City Press newspaper as volatile, and I quote, she says, "We have a very volatile relationship. I argue with her," that is Zille, constantly. So what are your thoughts and comments on that? Let me know. Do you think that Lindiwe Mazibuko maybe has got another agenda as opposed to just going to study in the United States? But Mazibuko also did add that anything else would be unhealthy. Now, Mazibuko at the time said she wanted to be president of the country in 10 years' time, was hospitalized shortly before the elections, and her illness could also have affected the decision. So a lot of stories going around at the moment. With Mazibuko out of the picture, Mmusi Maimane is now the leading contender for her position. And on Monday, he did mention that he will be in the National Assembly, but he will not be out of Gauteng. He will still serve the people of Gauteng as well. Now, just a little bit on the elections. You've seen a lot of coverage here on ITV. We spoke to a lot of parliamentary leaders. We spoke to a lot of politicians. We spoke to Mmusi Maimane. And I can tell you about the IEC. We didn't get to speak much about it. The IEC Results Center in Pretoria, it was buzzing. I can tell you it was buzzing. The setup was just absolutely brilliant. Media houses from one corner to the other corner, and politicians roaming the floor. And, they were quite be coming to give you interviews, to speak to you as well. But the atmosphere was absolutely brilliant. We have brought you some interviews with Musibe Mane, which we've seen on the news. We've also spoken to Bantu Olomisa, which you've seen in the news as well. And then also Yusuf Abramji. Remember, I spoke to him as well. He is a stalwart in fighting crime. He didn't mince his words with regards to e-tolls, which when I've covered certain areas at the voting booths, voting tolling stations as well, that people, although voting for the ruling party, they were very apprehensive about e-tolls. They don't want e-tolls. They were even willing to, some of them support the EFF and say that they want the e-tolls removed. They want it out of the ground. But they won't vote for the EFF, but they want it out of the ground as well. And then Yusuf Abramji was also sort of outspoken on his issue on Nkandla. He said that President Jacob Zuma possibly used the opportunity that his wife was raped at Nkandla, and some people thought maybe it was an electioneering move, but obviously we don't know what the actual story is there. But also a very, I think, successful campaign, a very successful job that the IEC has done at the election center. There were isolated incidents, but obviously the end result is that there were party complaints as well, some complaints lodged, but everything went smoothly, and elections is finally done and dusted. We're going to go for a break, and after the break we will continue with some of the other stories that has been making headlines. Stay tuned.
إلهي سرت في ظرف عصيب فاكشف البلوى فيا ربي أنا.
Welcome back to Perspective. My name is Faizel Patel. One of the stories that has taken the sidelines in the last week was the Oscar Pistorius trial. A lot of media was concentrated on South Africa's general elections, which the ANC won convincingly. There were a lot of some media, I would say, that was concentrated on the Pistorius trial, but not as much on the elections. Now, speaking on the Oscar Pistorius trial, last week 3 witnesses were called by Oscar Pistorius' defense team to testify in his murder trial in the High Court in Pretoria. Pistorius says he thought his girlfriend Reva Steenkamp was an intruder when he shot her dead in his Pretoria home on February 14th last year. Now, the head of anesthesiology at Wits University, Christina Landgren, was brought in to give the court an opinion on gastric emptying. Now, what that means, this is related to the time Steenkamp had her last meal. Social worker Yvette van Schalkwyk testified that the athlete was emotionally distraught and heartbroken after the shooting. She said Pistorius told her he accidentally shot Steenkamp. And then she said she had been upset by media reports suggesting Pistorius was not sincere in his apologies and was faking tears and emotions. And finally, the defense called Thomas Wally Wolmerans. He's a ballistic expert with decades of experience. Now, there are reports that Barry Rue will wrap up his case by end of this week or early next week, and then obviously the judge will deliberate on there. So let us keep tabs on that, and inshallah we'll bring that story for you as well. Now, another story that's been making headlines, the Gauteng Health Department won't launch an investigation into circumstances surrounding the pass that was granted to controversial sign language interpreter. Do you know who he is? Who I'm speaking about? Thamasanka Jainki. Yes, he is the person who shot to fame or infamy in December when he signed gibberish during former President Nelson Mandela's memorial service at the FNB Stadium in Joburg. Now, Jainki, who is being treated for schizophrenia at the Sterkfontein Hospital, which is a psychiatric facility on Gauteng's West Rand, was recently granted a pass to attend a family event. But it turned out that he used the time to film an advert for an Israeli company, Live Lens or Live Lens. Now, the questions are being asked about whether Jainki broke the rules by requesting a pass, claiming that he had to attend a family event when he knew he wanted time to shoot an advert. Now, the department spokesperson, Simon Zwane, said that Jainki had done nothing wrong because he had a pass and returned on the agreed time and date. He did explain that all patients who are hospitalized for a long period because of the nature of their illness and treatment are granted time to go and be with family. Now, another story that's been making headlines, and this is on our own continent, is the Nigerian saga with regards to the kidnapped girls. And this is a story that's making headlines. There's been extreme condemnation from around the world, from America to Britain to all over the world, and it's a very, very sad story. Now, we're taking a different aspect to that. We're speaking on some of the girls that did manage to escape. Now, some of the girls who managed to escape after being abducted last month from a school in northeastern Nigeria by the group Boko Haram have given harrowing accounts of their ordeal. Standing alongside their parents, the students described how the gunmen commanded the hundreds of students at the Chibok Government Girls Secondary School to gather outside before going into a storeroom and taking all the food. More than 300 girls were abducted on April 15th from their school in Chibok in the country's remote northeastern. 53 escaped and 276 remain captive, which is very, very sad at the moment. And like I said, there is outrage around the world. Now, the escaped girls spoke to visiting Borno state officials on the 5th of May. In the video, which was handed out by the Borno State Governor's Office, the women gathered at the school cried and cried. I mean, they were extremely sad as the students spoke of their ordeal, and it couldn't have been easy for them. Another girl recounted how she and a friend decided to run for their lives. Now, the government's inability, there's the Nigerian government, the government's inability to rescue the girls nearly a month after they were abducted by Boko Haram has sparked worldwide outrage, protests, and social media campaigns. Rallies were held in several North American cities on Saturday that passed to express outrage over the kidnappings. Protesters held signs and chanted slogans in Atlanta, in New York City, and Toronto in Canada, all calling for the release of the girls and an end to human trafficking worldwide. As further condemnation of the Nigerian abductions spread, Saudi Arabia's Grand Mufti, his name is Sheikh Abdul Aziz Al-Sheikh, said that Boko Haram rebels who kidnapped the schoolgirls had set up to smear the image of Islam. And indeed, that is what they are doing, because they're claiming to do it in the name of Islam. The Sheikh also said that Boko Haram had been misguided and should be shown their wrong path and be made to reject it. Now, the United States and other countries, including South Africa, have sent teams of technical experts to assist the search effort. Nigeria's defense headquarters said on Saturday also that 2 divisions of the military were now stationed in the border regions close to Chad and Cameroon. There are reports that some of the girls were taken across the border, but obviously these reports are not conclusive. And also to Niger to work with security agencies. And then at least 10 army search teams were trying to track down the girls in the remote far northwest, or northeast rather, where the border guards at high alert. So if you if you think about it, let us make dua for the safe return for these girls as well, and also want to make it easy for them as well, inshallah. Another story that we're going to be talking about is the plane, the missing plane of the MH370. It's how many months have passed now, and they haven't found the planes. Where is the plane? So I was hearing mainstream media, checking social media. It seems to have just disappeared of the planet. The story, nobody's getting so much limelight as well. But how does a plane disappear? This massive plane that flew from one country to the other, and there's some saying that it's in the Indian Ocean. But with the technology that we have today, they cannot find this plane. How do we resolve this issue? How do we come to that issue? I would like to know your thoughts and comments as well. And now for our technology segment, I want to go back to the elections and the IEC Center in Pretoria. Some people called it the ROC, the Results Operation Center. The technology that was displayed at this particular center was just overwhelming. You had this massive media houses and little offices where little media houses were set up. But the technology that was prevalent there to bring a live broadcast, a lot of journalists walking on the floor, taking sound bites, doing live interviews, the iPads, the telephones, the smartphones that were all used. In the olden days, we actually had to sit with a notebook and write the comments that the politicians are giving you. But this was so instantaneous. And what we used to do, just to give you an example, when I used to go from the ITV office downstairs onto the floor for some of the interviews that you've seen in the news bulletin, is you go there, and then instead of taking a pen and paper, we were actually typing out, we were taking sound bites, we were tweeting from there. Twitter is instantaneous. The messages, the photos that we went through, so overwhelming, technology that was there as well. And this obviously was broadcast around the world. Now, some of the mainstream media that was there, we had Al Jazeera, we had the BBC, the Sunny Times, SABC, whole lot of other media as well. So technology has taken us so far into this world. It's made a world a smaller place. It has made the world such a small place. Some of these images, some of these interviews were being broadcast live to different countries around the world. Some of it was done via Skype, some of it was done via a satellite link up. So just to understand the magnanimity of technology has played. And the question is obviously, would we survive without technology today? Would we survive? It used to be a luxury before. You used to have a cell phone. Now it has become a necessity. The smartphone has become a necessity. And with the launching of the new S5 and smartphones becoming more sophisticated with more processing power, more camera power. It is amazing what they can do. And this was all displayed at the IEC Center. But with this technology as well, everyone faces the dilemma of what to do with used electronics, with old computers and phones, typically taking residence for years to come in drawers and cupboards. So you've got an old phone, you've got an old Nokia, you've got an old brick, that's what we call it, those massive phones. What do you do with it? E-waste, they call it electronic waste, or e-waste should never, ever be thrown away in the trash, as electronics contain toxic chemicals which is harmful or to the environment, but not to the environment as well, but to children as well. Children tend to put these things in their mouth and don't just leave it lying around. Now, there are, however, several safe ways in which such waste can be disposed of. Number one, you can pass them on for reuse. There are many people in need of computers and other electronics, such as printers. Once outdated, donate your working electronics to people in need. Many impoverished schools and charities require anything from computers to printers and will easily find a new use for your used items. Then you can resell, turn your waste into worth. Although you may not want your iPhone 4 any more than throw it away and rather look towards selling it, this will make you a couple of rands and ensure that the phone is reused instead of filling up a dump site. And finally, recycling. There are several electronic recyclers across the country that take used electronics off consumers' hands. For one in your neighborhood to drop off all your unwanted electronics, you can check your internet or your local telephone directory as well. But like I said, dispose it in a proper way so that we don't damage our environment. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of another edition of Perspective. Join me again next week when we discuss news making headlines and also internationally and nationally as well. You're welcome to interact with me by sending me a mail on Faizel@itvnetworks.tv or send me a tweet on @Faizi143 or drop me a comment on facebook.com/Faizel Patel. From myself, Faizel Patel, and the great team here at ITV, fi amanillah. Assalamu alaikum ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى. أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى. إلهي صرت في ظرف عصيب فاكشف البلوى. فيا ربي أنا عبد لرد الضيم لا يقوى. أعني ربي في